Shalom, ladies and gentlemen. Good to see you all here. Hope you're doing well. Well, we're going to talk about parents are coming online letting their children know you ain't going to be nowhere and the only black person. And there are some young people actually coming online telling of their experience of being the only black person out and about with all white people. And man, these stories are horrifying. They are. They're bad. You know, the problem is when you're out with a group of them, you can best believe the racism is going to come out. And it did in each one of the circumstances that I was listening to earlier today. Some of them had music and I just couldn't use it. But they were talking about all kinds of horrible things that was being said to them. And I don't know if you heard there was a teen that went out with all white friends to a lake down there in Florida. And he was the one in the water, and they were laughing and mocking him because he couldn't swim. And a white family saw what was going on and they went over and rescued him. They were in a boat not far away from what was happening, and they went over in their boat and they were able to get him out of the water and save him. But his friends that he went there with, they were ready to just let him drown. So yes, it happened again, and this was after Nolan Wells. So maybe I'll get to doing that one, because there is actual footage of it happening. And, you know, I have to give credit. At least that white family that was nearby saw what was going on and they intervened. I give them credit for that. But unfortunately, that is not always the outcome, and we know it. So not only are parents not allowing their child to be the only black teen, a lot of adults are now saying it's not safe for, it really is not safe for children or adults. It really isn't. And now they're not even allowing their children to even go over go to their house, or even, sleep over. None of that. All of that's being cut out. And there are some videos, of course, of white people online saying it's not fair. We're not all like that. But see, we don't have time. What you don't realize is we don't have time to be trying to figure out who's all right and who's not. When something like Nolan Wells happened, we're going to be on the side of caution. It doesn't matter what good person you claim to be. That's really irrelevant, because these things have been occurring since we all encountered y'all. It's been occurring like that. So you coming on a video saying we're not all like that and whatever, nobody's going to pay attention to that after seeing what happened to Nolan Wells and many others even before him. So just before we get into that, the Chebe growth butter is 45% off today, tomorrow, and all the way through Monday, the 27th at 11:59 p.m. So trust me, I made a lot, y'all. I got a lot more than what I listed. So as soon as the 40 I have listed sells out, I can put another batch up. That's how much I have. I have a lot. So take advantage and get it at a discount while you can. So, y'all, let's get into this. I'm just real glad that people are speaking out, and, the white people that are offended, you shouldn't really be offended. If you were about something, you would want our children to be safe too. But the fact that you're putting your feelings ahead, I definitely would never let my child go out with you or any of your offspring. The ones that are online talking about, oh, this is not right. I wouldn't go near you or any offspring that you're raising, because you want to dismiss what happened and just, we need to be concerned about how it's making you feel. The hell with that. We ain't got to be concerned about that at all. Thank you for the ones, everybody.
I used to be just like Nolan Wells, the only black girl in an all white friend group. And just like Nolan, I thought they were my friends too. I used to argue with my stepfather, who used to tell me, they are not your friends. And I'd be like, yes, they are my friends. And my stepfather said, when you get some knowledge of self, you're going to see if they really are your friends, because black pride will tell you whether or not your white friends are really your friends. Because let me tell you, the white boys, the white girls in my school, they loved me until I got knowledge of self. And I will never forget the day that it happened. I was 14 years old, and this white boy named Wayne Colby that I went to high school with liked me and asked me to go to the mall with him and his friends. And we went to the mall, went shopping, and on the way back, his friend said, I have a joke, but I can't tell it because Shari's in the car. And Wayne and his friend, this is how locked in I was. They said, you can tell it. Shari is cool. She's not gonna get offended like that. And y'all know his friend said, what are the similarities between a black woman and a vagina? And the answer was, they both have kinky hair, big lips, and stink. And all of these white boys in the car started laughing, including the white boy that liked me. And I ain't gonna lie to y'all, I was stuck, because I really thought these white kids weren't racist. My stepfather had been telling me the whole time, like, they ain't your real friends, they this, they that. And I was like, no, they're not. No, they're not. And y'all, when I got out that car, I ran into my house crying. And my stepfather came downstairs and was like, what is wrong? My stepfather gave me a book called The Broda File that I read over the weekend. I came to school on a Monday and started kicking it to my white friends that I think that Jesus may be a black man and all those type of things. It switched up on me real quick. When I refused to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, those white friends that I thought were my friends since ninth grade and they loved me and everything, all that switched up. I mean, I was locked in where they would want me to sleep over their house. I'd be the only black girl in the friend group, but my mother was always very cautious. No disrespect, because oftentimes those white families were much more lackadaisical. Their children would be smoking, drinking, and things like that. My curfew was 9 o'clock at 11th grade. So my mother didn't play around like their parents had leeway for them. And the last straw for me was when I realized my white friends would not be uncomfortable for me. They didn't think it was uncomfortable for me to be hanging out with them and be the only black girl with them at their house, with their friends, even sometimes being around friends that they knew and would say, oh yeah, her parents are racist and this and that. And they still would think that I should be comfortable around them. I'll never forget, I asked them to go to Iverson Mall with me. And anyone in the DMV knows Iverson Mall is a black mall. And my best white friend was like, I can't go to that mall. And I'm like, why? And she's like, basically was not comfortable going to that mall. And that's when I knew I couldn't be her friend anymore. Plus, she had kissed this black boy. And as much as her mama, brothers, and everybody loved me, she was terrified that her family would find out, because she told me her family, her brothers would black out if they found out she kissed this black boy. Now, here it is. I'm sleeping at your house. Your mama say she loved me. Your daddy, everybody loved me. But they gonna do what to you if they found out you kissed the black boy? Those two things can't exist at the same time. I can't be your friend, but also know that your daddy, mama, and brother that I'm around will basically disown you if they find out you kissed a black man. Have a good day.
Man, I want to give special props out and kudos to all those black parents, man, who are now telling their kids not to hang with white kids. You are doing something that's so productive and so positive. You're increasing your child's safety and trying to increase their years of living on this earth. And when you grow up, some of us, we grew up in the Mississippi Delta. I grew up in Mississippi Delta. I was already on that. I never even saw a white person. I was like 15 years old. So that helped me to be successful in life. So I'm hoping it does the same thing for your kids. But right now, y'all trying to protect y'all goddamn kids' lives. And that is so important. I'm so proud to see you all doing that, man. Protect y'all goddamn kids. Y'all kids deserve to live too.
Last month, my son came to me because he's gonna be 18 next month, and he basically was telling me that he's going on this boys trip, and they're going down to Galveston to, hang out, have a good time, whatever. My first question was to him. I said, "Is it a whole bunch of whites?" He said, "No, they're all black." I need to meet everybody. I need to make sure I know who everybody is. I'm sure I knew a few of them. I need to know who everybody is. I need everybody's number, regardless. But let me tell you something. I told him if they was all white, he wasn't fucking going. Especially overnight, on a trip, and around bodies of water. Absolutely it wouldn't have happened. It would have never fucking happened. It's because of historical and lived context. Black parents know that being accepted socially in a group is not the same thing as being protected equally.
This is going to be a hot take, and it's either going to get me canceled or people are going to be like, "You're right." So here we go. I'm just going to say it. Black people have got to stop hanging out with groups of white people. And I mean that. If you're going to be the only black person in that group, go home. Go home. Because these days, you just can't trust white people anymore. Obviously. It happens time and time and time again. You see one black person hanging out with their group of white friends, and they're like, "Oh, I've known these guys for forever. We grew up with them. I'm the only black person in the high school," or something like that. Especially down here in the South, okay? Down here in the South. Obviously, we realize that these pieces of crap, the white people, will turn on you. They will turn on you quick. So not only do y'all have to be worried about the police, now you need to be worried about your group of white friends that you grew up with. And am I saying every white person's like that? No, obviously not. Okay. But better be safe than sorry, right? And that's a shame. But I just keep seeing it happen. And like over the past, 2 or 3 years, especially, if you know what I'm talking about, people have just gotten louder and prouder about it. So really it all boils down to like a lack of empathy these days. That's a whole nother subject though. But yeah, and don't come for me about my hair. I just got them running 5 miles.
Dear black people, if you are the only black person in an all-white friend group, you are not safe, whether you realize it or not. And it doesn't always result in physical violence, but at some point, you're going to be subjected to psychological and emotional harm. You're going to be subjected to microaggressions. It's going to happen, especially if you're not having ongoing conversations about race in these groups. I'll give you an example. I was born in Oakland, California, in a racially diverse neighborhood, a black school, black church, and black little leagues. And I loved it. And then at 10 years old, my parents moved on up in the world. We moved to San Diego, California, and we went from a racially diverse neighborhood in Oakland to an all-white neighborhood in San Diego. I was the only black kid in the neighborhood. My so-called friends' parents didn't like me in their houses. Some of my so-called friends didn't like me in their houses, and particularly me. I remember a friend was basically chewed out by his mom for having me at their house with all of these other kids. And I was the only one that she had a problem with. Never went back there. I remember one time after school, we went to Blockbuster, me and a group of friends. I'm the only black one. And as we were leaving the Blockbuster, the alarm went off, indicating that somebody may have stolen something. Well, the employee at Blockbuster only checked my bag. They stopped me, went through my bag. When they realized I had nothing, they didn't check anybody else. They were just like, "Okay, it's cool. Y'all can leave." And I'm pretty sure one of them white kids that I was with stole something, but they were happy to let me take the fall. We moved to San Diego when I was in the 5th grade. And I remember at my 5th grade graduation, my white gay male teacher who wore Daisy Dukes to class every day got up in front of the entire student body and all the parents to announce my graduation and said, you know, when they first brought this kid to my class, I thought he was going to be a problem, but I was so surprised he wound up being one of my best students. Even when you're dealing with supposedly justice-oriented white people, they still center themselves and they still ignore their blind spots. I know this because I've lived it. So if you're dealing with these colorblind whites, Molly, you in danger, girl. Now, with that being said, I got white friends that I love dearly and I know they love me. But I just don't do large groups of white people when I'm the only black person. It just give me the heebie-jeebies. That shit ain't safe.
I decided to. So I have a black son, and my black son has white friends. And my black son has gone out by himself with his group of white friends. They've been friends ever since they was in elementary school, a couple of them. So I told my son, I said, you need to go out with a group of friends that's more diverse. You do not need to be the only black child that goes out with your group of friends. So he wanted to go out of town with them, right? And I said, no, you're not going. And did he go? No, he did not go. So what I tell my son, first of all, their phone numbers, their names, their addresses, their parents' names. That was the first thing that I did with him. Well, since this little situation that has happened with Nolan Wells, I told my son, you would not go to their house. You would not go out anywhere with them. No, sir. Because see, this mama don't play. So he would not be going out with these so-called friends of his ever again. He would not go to their house. He would not go out with them. You can talk to them on the phone and you can talk to them on the computer, but you would not be hanging with those people anymore. Because we all know what they're capable of doing.
Right now, it's a little dangerous out there. The racial tension is a little too high for you to be letting your kid go anyway right now, especially if they're the only token black kid. Let me say that. You talking about the Cyrus Carmack Belton, you talking about Carmelo Anthony case, now we talk about Nolan Wells. The tension is a little too high, and sometimes we have to protect our kids from themselves. You know what I mean? I don't care if it was the opposite. One white kid, all black kids. You got to protect your kids from themselves because they don't know what they don't know. And a lot of these kids grew up in an inclusive society where everybody get a trophy, everybody won, everybody participate. And we know that's not reality. I grew up in the 70s. I still hear stories of my people being hung in South Georgia. My people was being brutalized in South Georgia. There are stories out there. And even though I grew up in I live now in an affluent community, and my kids went to these type schools, I let them know the history. And I don't think that's wrong to let them know about their history. So we always have to protect our kids from themselves because they don't know. And they do think everybody's their friends. And everybody's not your friend. Let's move to the next one.
My parents didn't let me go to the beach with my white friends when I was 16 years old late at night. I remember that. I remember going back home being like, I want to go to the beach with them. We're just going to have fun. They said no. And I was upset at 16 years old, super upset. I was like, what are you saying this to me? Like, this is unbelievable. And now you know. And now you know. And look, that is way better than me going and something happening, me going and me not coming back. That is the difference, right? You can be mad in the moment at your kid, or your kid can be mad at your parents, but that's what you have to do as a parent. And that's why Nolan Wells' parents didn't do enough. They can't let him go. They can't let him go to that situation. He's going to be mad at you? Fine. He's mad at you, but he's still living. Like, that is why parenting is so important. Nolan Wells knows no different. When I was 16, I knew no different. I want to go to the beach late at night. So what? But it does matter for a black person. It does matter when you're not white in that situation. Anything can happen to you. You need to be on your P's and Q's at all moments, and it's on your parents to tell you that. His parents did not tell him that, and that's why he's not with us.
Yeah, that's right. Look, it's nice to see young people gaining some wisdom. It really is. And I'm glad our parents are really jumping on this topic. I see a lot online and they're really sticking it to their children about not going out with groups of white kids. I don't even think we should be out with groups of white adults like that. We need to just draw the line. But you know what? You know what the good thing about this, y'all? This is another form of the great separation. It really is, because you know what? There was no conversations about this. Even the other times when this would occur, we weren't having no serious conversations online like we are now. Now, I think it's just happened so often. Nolan Wells is like the last straw. And now parents are not playing around no more. And they are putting their foot down, telling their children, you ain't going. You ain't going. I don't care what all of them go and do. You are not going to be there. So, yeah, yeah. So that separation is real and they're feeling it. They're feeling it. There's a couple of videos on there saying, my black friends won't come around me no more. You know? And look, y'all, that is inevitable. We are in the final days. The separation is real. It's not just from Asians and stop going into Latino bodegas. No, it's going way beyond that. Now we are like, that friendship you got with them, that mess is over now. That is over. And I even seen a few videos. Unfortunately, they had all kinds of music in it where these parents are not only telling them they ain't going back to those white friends, they're telling their kids, you better start making friends with people that look like you. You know, I do realize some of these folks have moved to predominantly white areas. And, sometimes that is the only people that are around, dependent on where you live and the location. But still, they don't have to go out with those people at all. Not at all. Yeah. So just be careful, not only for your children, but for you. Be careful. Yeah. Well, I think it's time. I think a lot of people seeing Nolan get unalive, and out of everybody on the boat, he was the only one that didn't make it home. Oh, yeah. A lot of people ain't having that when it comes down to their own children. And I think that's why it's such a big uptick in people's attitudes about this whole thing. Mm-hmm. Yep. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. We're going to get into Shiloh Hendricks. Many of you might remember she was the white woman that used a racial slur on an autistic 5-year-old black child in a park. Well, she ended up in court on 2 counts of disorderly conduct. It was a split. So we will get into that at 5:45. So I will see you then. And let me thank William Sosa. Thank you for the 10 joules, floating heart. CJ Filled, thank you for the 2 Jules 100. And Black Nose 6, thank you for the 30 Jules flower. Thank you so much. Thank you all for your support for my channel. And Lisa Gibson, thank you for the 30 Jules flower. Thank you so much. I appreciate each and every one of you and your support for my channel. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Make sure you pick up your Chebe growth butter, and I will see you on the next live. Shalom, family.